hope you were here to view all 5 of these films as they unfolded, going from the capitalist all the way to In the Matchbox, is the fact that there are several themes that echo. There are several other aspects to the films. One of the things I looked at was the relationship between sons and elders, or sons and fathers. In this case, young men and their uncle. The previous film, young man and his father. Previous film to that, young man and his father. So there is something important to notice about that. There were some powerful soundtracks represented as well. And then, more importantly, there are stories that we have not heard that were told. Ken Saro-Wiwa is a man that I knew as a poet and as one who demonstrated quite often against Shell Oil Company in Washington, D.C. because of his fight, his advocacy, and his loss of life. So no, I don't buy gas from Shell. Haven't for a very long time. But it's film that tells those stories and brings that back to us in very powerful ways. Sankofa, we saw the necklace around the young man's neck. I wear 2 Sankofa bird bracelets to represent the fact that I'm a cultural historian. I've been wearing them for over 25 years every day. I take them off at night. But what I want to say is the power of story is before you. And the power of the story that we just saw was just phenomenal. Mark, how did that story come about? What possessed you, if you will, to carry us on that journey?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Anderson. Nice to be here with you, everybody. So first and foremost, my partner, who is Jeremy Little, was pretty much the conceptualizer of it and writer as well, and came to me with the vision. Crazy story. He had heard about me. He had watched my movie, which also stars Hawthorne James. It's about my life story, and pretty much tracked me down on social media. Like literally came after me. At first I was a little hesitant because I was like, yo, who this dude right here? But then he came at me, told me what his purpose was in reference to film, and then shared his concept with me. It was based on a passing down of a story from his family up in the Catawba County area, Hickory, North Carolina. So as he developed this story, he pretty much told me about the concept, and I was like, As a director, as a filmmaker myself, I saw the vision as soon as he shared it with me. And I think as filmmakers, that's the most important thing, that we first see the vision after it's written down plainly. And once we started grasping this, we thought about what it was going to take to produce it. You know, hey, who's a good person to be Uncle Wendell? Of course, Hawthorne. Killed it. And we just put the whole production together, man, and we pretty much shot this in one day. So that's where the story, it was a derivative of that, but when he shared it with me, I thought about my grandmother who inherited land as a first-generation freed slave in Coolamon Plantation, which is in around the Davie County area and stuff like that. And there was things that she would share with us. But I don't know if you all caught the piece about Hawthorne or Uncle Wendell saying, see, my family, they weren't slaves. They had the secret to destroying this beast, so they were pretty much exempt from slavery, but the beast is also a representation of the system.
So that other kernel you just shared with us, the writing was done by your associate.
Yes, and then we all came in together.
And you shot this in one day.
Yes.
And that's where I want to go with this.
Okay.
Because of the technology, the craft.
Yes.
Is what I want to speak to. You come to this craft, you know, with something behind you, with having told your very own story through this craft, and having been on both sides of the camera relative to production,
exactly,
relative to acting, and so that's where I want to go. For you, what was it? You told us about Hawthorne and what he brought, powerful performance, right? What was it that you feel was the most important aspect for you in the making of what we just saw?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, I had a very short role. I really wanted to focus on directing. I wanted to focus on what we were seeing, what shots were being taken, where we keyed in on the expressions of Uncle Wendell versus Professor Garrett versus, Ronald, my cousin, who played my cousin in this, and just pretty much tell the story with the emphasis on great shots. I mean, we had a phenomenal DP, Connor out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we wanted to make sure that we utilized every single bit of skill set. So in order for us to be able to incorporate everybody's talents, I just felt better not pouring too much into being in front of the camera, but more so being behind the camera, because once I stepped out, boom, I'm right back. I'm paying attention to everything and making sure that, this thing is told. The most important contribution to this story was the fact that we was blood, sweating, tears for those 14 hours that day. And when I say one day, I mean almost all of that one day. Almost the whole 24 hours with a little bit of rest. It was cold. It was in the teens in February in Hickory. So we pretty much blood, sweated, tears, frozen tears, to get through this, and we fought nail and tooth because of the simple fact that we knew what we believed in, the vision. To me, that's the most important thing, again, to always believe in the vision, and as a filmmaker, the fact that you use technology, you know that you can pull that vision off and make it look so real. And just to perfect the film itself, what's so crazy is, and you know my story, I'm a former death penalty offender. I served 17 and a half years on a life sentence. While I was on the inside, I was always working on my craft. And it wasn't until I had my homecoming and I was released in 2008 to come to Durham to make it my new home that my artistry was enhanced by dealing with Baba Chuck Davis, the whole Kwanzaa community, and everything else that we did, that I was able to realize, okay, after I helped my cousin with his business that you all know, Dame's Chicken and Waffles, I was able to go into this craft and self-taught. I went to YTU and GU, YouTube University and Google University, and everything that I studied was designed to make sure that any film that I got involved in, whether it was acting, directing, producing, or whatever, that I can do it to the best of my ability and my artistry. So to me, it's always the most important thing that went to this film was making sure we saw the vision first and then manifesting the vision with the technology.
Thank you for that. Now, this story drops us right in to a sort of unfolding saga. And so my next question, you know where I'm going, is where is this going?
Okay, so this was originally designed to run through the film festival circuit as a short film, and we've accomplished a lot with it. We were in only over 21 film festivals. Some were Oscar qualifying, and we took a lot of first place home. And so we realized that this was also the synopsis for what it was that we wanted potential investors to see to shoot the full feature, because the script for the full feature is a beast. No pun intended. And it's just like, okay, we got something. We got something. How do we represent our plight with the system through horror and sci-fi and a story that is not your typical story that's handed down through the family tradition? And it was designed just for that, and we will be shooting this full feature starting at the late part of spring.
Yeah. The Afrofuturist me is loving this, because now I got something to be waiting for.
Yes.
Relative to that, how this story is going to tell out. So, what else are you engaged in? Or are you so immersed in making this happen? Most of us creatives, we have multiple things going on.
Yeah.
So, what else is going on with you?
Just to continue directing and producing, as well as acting. I've just landed some major roles. One of my first major lead roles was a film that recently came out. You could watch it streaming everywhere. It's called Shark Waters. I play the lead role in that. I play a captain of a ship, of course. Go figure with the title Shark Waters. I don't want to, give a spoiler alert, but definitely one of the first ones to survive such tragedy. You know what I'm saying? But you'll love the film. But yeah, and I got some more roles coming up that I'll be filming throughout the year. I just re-engaged into one of my programs that I do for Opportunity Youth is what we call them now, but juvenile offenders, and what we do is cinema therapy. We create a transforming and renewal of the mind state through cinematic approaches. And teaching them the art form itself. And I deal with a lot of guys that, are actually out on bond as juvenile offenders for some of the craziest things you could ever imagine. Dealing with a foster care program out in Charlotte where engaging with the youth. I love to engage with the youth, and as you know that, Daryl, a lot of the things that I did was through my nonprofit, which is Polished Souls Foundation Incorporated, where we do gang intervention, trying to stop the violence, so to speak, because a lot of my life, that's where that came from, and just engaged in so many other things and raising my awesome, wonderful 12-year-old black son that is also an actor. And, and we just shot his first short film that he wrote.
Okay.
We shot it, and so he's, whoa.
Yeah, see, this is the 21st century.
Yeah.
And brothers are no longer going to be subjected to some of the nonsense that we usually hear about relative to what, I'll say it this way, they want to tell us. We have other stories to tell, other acts and moves to make. And so, as for example, in the previous film, brother didn't need them feathers. And it was a very, very heartening thing to see at the end of that film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That the brother won out.
Yeah. Shout out to that film. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a writer, and it grabbed the hell out of my attention. I was like, okay.
And, wings seemed to be another theme, right? Because we had the other film with that angel's wings saving a brother. He got back up too. And that's what you've always been about, getting back up. Oh, yeah. And that's what we give you honor and praise for that. I want to know if there are questions out there that you may have. And we have a microphone for you, so all you got to do is just raise your hand high and not be fearful. There's no wrong question. And guess what? All the answers are going to be right.
Thank you for your film. That was really cool.
Thank you.
I think when it ended, I was like, oh, there's a second part after credits, right?
Greedy, aren't you?
Absolutely. I just wanted to ask, I think when you said craft, it triggered something. I just started thinking about Lovecraft, and I'm sure you're familiar with the show and the themes of sci-fi and family legacies, and how I think the point of that show is to take those stories that were horror stories for black people in his books and turn it into more of a we have a history of fighting off the unknown.
Yes.
And taking that perspective and then bringing it, I guess, to the future and saying we've done this, we're going to continue to do it, and like you said, sir, now we can tell these stories with the advent of technology. And so I just wonder if you were I wouldn't say maybe a Lovecraft fan, but if that was something that kind of inspired your thinking of those sci-fi horror aspects, and then relating that to especially black people.
Actually, as an actor, I was involved with several other projects that, that was run by the community of, people of color. One of the projects was Mario Van Peebles' Superstition, and the other project was Crossbreed, which was a film that highlighted a black captain of a missions team that was out to destroy the aliens that was coming back to try to implant us with their DNA. That starred Vivica Fox and some other people, some great people, and those projects actually inspired me to go towards horror and sci-fi, because I realized when I was on the inside, I used to come up with some crazy stuff, and I would be writing it and be like, why am I thinking like this? And I had no idea that it was designed to be manifested later on in my life once I became free and was able to get my wings and fly into the industry. I haven't really gotten a chance to check out Lovecraft or nothing like that, but there's other multiple, productions out there that actually have inspired me. Like I said, those that I were involved with, and just produced another horror film entitled Shudder, and when the success of that film took off, it was about a camera that was possessed that would steal the models of every soul. Steal the souls of every model that it took a picture of. When we saw how well that did in the genre of horror and science fiction and stuff like that, I just felt like that was a go-to genre. And it seems like it's a good way to tell a story, too, in the most imaginative level you can tell it.
It's interesting that you bring up, and we do have a question here, but it's interesting that you bring up Lovecraft, and there may be those of us in the audience who saw that series. Series very important. When that book first came out, written by a white author, mind you, but whom decided to flip the script on Lovecraft. I have several bookshelves of if not Lovecraft's short stories and some of the novelettes, other stories that were inspired. Lovecraft had a major impact, racist that he was, I always have to say that, had a major impact on a whole lot of writers that you may be familiar with. Neil Gaiman would be one of them. Stephen King would be another. But Matt Ruff is who wrote Lovecraft Country, and he specifically flipped the script on centering black folks in that storyline. When that book came out in 2016, I was the first yelling and screaming, this is Jordan Peele's next project. This has to be. I feel I'm owed royalties. But with that being said, the fact remains that I have a chapter coming out in a book later this year called Strange Mathematics, where I examine the 7th episode of that series. That's the episode which I considered the most scientific, science fictional, in that the main character's aunt, she's a mathematician and an astrophysicist, astronomer. And she is able to decipher those codes and how to move the orrery in ways that allow her to travel through time and space, if you recall. So it's a wonderful tale. It opens up the opportunity for us looking at the fact that we have a host of astrophysicists, black women, as well as mathematicians. Some of the earliest black women to receive their PhDs, one of them came here back in the 50s to North Carolina Central. But that's a whole nother story, a whole nother opening for a whole nother film. We have a question right here, and this might be our last question. We'll see.
Okay. Fantastic film. Congratulations on it, and definitely wanted more as well. After Brother here asked a question, something came to me. Like, I know, like, I'm a filmmaker as well, and I know you have a lot of things on your plate, but I'm wondering, did you have any plans? Because your film seems to delve really deeply into oral histories. Yes. To like maybe develop some type of audio oral history type of thing, because there's, I'm sure you know, and multiple people here probably know, there's deep, horrific oral histories within the black community, black diaspora and such. I'm just wondering if there's any thoughts to that as far as like maybe like to expand like the scope of the project. Not to try to give you something else to do, but it's
no. It's funny you say that, because it's one of the things I really didn't mention, because a lot of things we just keep under the wraps. But there is a project that is griot based, yeah, and it's it's stories. It's almost like a Tales from the Crypt type thing, and it's a series, and it deals with the supernatural. It deals with every origin of whether it's culture, way of life, or religion that you can think of, everything from Christianity to Ifa and everything else. the different stories based on the spectrum of our people and how we operate in different beliefs and so on and so to speak. And it's in development right now. 2024 and 25 is going to be some amazing years in this industry, I promise you. And the fact that it opened back up and opened the doors to the stories that you're asking about, the stories that we want to hear, yes, definitely developing some things like that. And I'm always open to collaborations because that's how this film was made. Somebody came at me, and then we collaborated, and then we created what I feel like is a great piece. And that's not one person that did that. It's not a me thing, it's a we thing. And that's how I like to operate in the community, because we're not getting no further if we're self-righteous, and Hawthorne is one of my mentors, and I have one of the other greatest mentors I consider on the face of this earth, which is Oba Babatunde, and he keeps me level-headed in Hollywood to where I don't even call it Hollywood no more. I just call it, this is our thing. You know what I'm saying? Because the stories to me are more important, that are handed down family after family after family, because if you forget where you came from, you'll never know where you're going.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, we have one right here.
Yes, I am certainly looking forward to the development of the story in your full-length feature. And I was wondering, one question, I was wondering if you had any idea of when that might possibly be released. I know you're just getting started on it, but just wondering if you had, any idea of when it would be, finished and released. And the other was, I saw you some years back talking about your earlier film that you mentioned, and I was wondering, is that still available?
You talking about my life story?
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's on Tubi. It's on Amazon. It's entitled A Polished Soul.
Okay.
It's got some heavy hitters in there. Like I said, both of my mentors are in there, Oba and Hawthorne. Then you got Shar Jackson and Bailiff Bird from Judge Judy plays my father. And my 12-year-old son, who I said is an actor, plays me at 6 years old in this movie. So Joshua Gunn, Durham's finest, Jay Guns, I don't know if you're familiar with him, plays me in this film. He ran for, I want to say, what did he run for? City Council right here in Durham. He actually plays me in this movie. So, yeah, it's A Polished Soul, and it can be found on Tubi. Watch it for free on Tubi. I mean, I still get paid, but watch it for free. You know what I'm saying? And just like I always tell people, man, leave a review, man, because that movie was designed for the youth, really, to teach these guys that think the powing is where it's at. They told you a different story in some of those rap lyrics, and you need to hear the truth.
And the timeline, I think she was asking if there is one relative to the completion of.
Oh, I'm
what
sorry.
we saw here.
You're right.
Yes.
So the timeline, yes. We're looking at a production life of probably 9 to 11 months. So once we do principal photography, beginning in late April, we're looking at principal photography lasting a good 15 days. And then after that, we really want to tighten it up with post-production because we want to make sure our investors get their bang for the buck, and we don't just want to throw anything out there. And we got a lot more effects in there than we did in just this short piece alone. And the fact that the two cousins are central in this, we got a lot going on. We might do a little, I just really want to sit back and watch, so I might not really play in the next one. But it's probably 9 to 11 months of production life. So we're looking at anywhere probably closer to this time of the release, somewhere maybe late January, early February.
All right. Questions? Answers? Well, let's give a hand to Michael Anderson. Let's give a hand to the Hayti Heritage Film Festival and the staff and volunteers and other filmmakers that make it happen. The director of this festival is right there, lording over us. Give Tara Dixon a hand. There's more film and more panels and more fun. So enjoy the rest of the festival through tomorrow. Thank you for coming.